Did you know there are major Hollywood studios right now watching their entire operation slowly self-destruct while the general public has absolutely no idea it's happening? Why? Well, because they keep releasing multi-million-dollar blockbuster movies that die so fast and so quietly that almost no one registers they ever existed in the first place. And we're talking about movies that had everything. Recognizable A-list movie stars, massive marketing campaigns, standing ovations at prestigious film festivals, worldwide theatrical releases. But none of it mattered. They all disappeared the moment they arrived, and hardly anyone even noticed. The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare. When Guy Ritchie directed Superman and Reacher in a movie, and nobody turned up to watch it. So most people would consider Henry Cavill to be a genuine movie star. He most famously played Superman and The Witcher. And of course, studios have been giving him lead roles in massive budget films ever since. But a lot of his non-franchise movies have flopped. And in 2024, he had back-to-back flops within months of each other. Now, I'm not blaming him personally for the poor performance of any of his movies. But this represents a terrifying new reality for Hollywood, where even proven movie stars can't save expensive blockbuster films from being forgotten the moment they arrive. Cavill's first 2024 flop came with Argylle, which was a spy action comedy. The movie starred Bryce Dallas Howard, Lipa, Sam Rockwell, Bryan Cranston, and even John Cena. It had a $200 million production budget, along with a reported marketing budget of $60 million. So the total costs were well over $250 million at $260 million. And I'm not claiming this movie was a silent flop because it got a lot of publicity at the time. But despite the recognizable stars involved, the massive budgets, and the high-profile cast all heavily publicizing the movie through their personal social media channels, the movie only ended up making $96.2 million at the worldwide box office. This means it didn't even make half of its production budget back. Then came the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare a few months later, which went almost completely under the radar for most people. Directed by Guy Ritchie and based on the true story of Churchill's secret World War II operatives, the film starred Cavill alongside Alan Ritchson, who was famous for playing Jack Reacher in the popular TV series Reacher. That movie cost $60 million to make, but it only managed to open to $9 million domestically, finishing in fourth place behind Civil War, Abigail, and Godzilla Kong. And as if that wasn't bad enough, by its second weekend, the film's earnings had dropped by almost 70%, going down to $3.86 million. And you know what? It had also fallen all the way down to sixth place. By the end of its theatrical run, the movie was only able to bring in $29.8 million worldwide. But here's what makes this particularly painful. The movie earned 68% on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, but an incredible 91% from audiences, which means that the people who actually saw the movie really enjoyed it. And the film went on to do reasonably well on streaming platforms like Prime Video. So it seemed that audiences were interested in watching it, but just not at the theater. Lisa Frankenstein. The directorial debut, so quiet people forgot Robin Williams even had a daughter. Lisa Frankenstein was written by Diablo Cody, who is known for Juno and Jennifer's Body, and directed by Zelda Williams, who is the daughter of Robin Williams. This was her featured directorial debut. The film starred Kathryn Newton as a misunderstood teenager in 1989 who falls in love with a Victorian-era corpse played by Cole Sprouse. And apparently the film was set in the same universe as Jennifer's Body. Now at the start, this movie looked like it could have been counterculture gold, and it had a lot going for it. An 80s-based horror comedy with the type of sharp wit and sarcasm that made films like Juno so compelling. It also had the added advantage of being released during a slow Super Bowl weekend in February 2024. The lead actress, Kathryn Newton, had proven she could carry horror films with Freaky, and the lead actor, Sprouse, had a huge fan base from his time on the popular American TV series Riverdale. And then add to all of that the fact that Lisa Frankenstein cost a modest $13 million. So it really didn't need to be a massive blockbuster in order to be commercially successful. Also, this movie managed to get screened in over 3,000 theaters, which is unbelievably impressive for a film of this size. But then, the film was released and it only managed to earn $3.8 million in its opening weekend, finishing in second place behind Argylle. And as bad as that disastrous opening weekend might sound, it was actually the high point of the movie's entire theatrical run, because the second weekend was when the real box office collapse began. From second place, it fell all the way down to ninth place, and its second weekend numbers were down to around only $2 million. By the end of its theatrical run, Lisa Frankenstein was only able to earn $9.9 million worldwide, against that $13 million budget I mentioned earlier. The studio, Focus Features, had given it a massive theatrical push, fully expecting it to find an audience with younger viewers who loved 80s nostalgia and quirky romantic horror comedies. But instead, the few Gen Z audiences that showed up at the theater were more interested in watching Argylle, which, by the way, also flopped, as I mentioned earlier. $13 million spent to make less than $10 million, and a directorial debut so quiet that most people still don't know Robin Williams ever had a daughter, let alone one who directed a Hollywood feature film. The Bikeriders. The film so invisible that switching the marketing from girl power to alpha male energy made absolutely no difference. Jeff Nichols directed The Bikeriders, a crime drama inspired by Danny Lyon's photo book about motorcycle clubs in the Midwest. The cast included Austin Butler, fresh off his Elvis success, Tom Hardy, Jodie Comer, and Michael Shannon. And the film premiered at the 50th Telluride Film Festival in 2023 with a huge amount of positive critical acclaim. So yeah, this movie had a lot going for it. A talented director, charismatic leads at the peak of their careers, critical acclaim, and Butler had just starred in Dune Part 2, which had been a massive hit just a few months before this movie was released. The movie should have been an award season contender that drew older audiences back to theaters, but the film cost $40 million to make and earned just $36 million worldwide. It opened to around $10 million from over 2,600 theaters, and using the standard Hollywood break-even calculation, the film needed at least $80 to $100 million to be profitable. This didn't even come close, but it seems its problems started long before the film hit theaters. You see, the movie was originally supposed to be released by 20th Century Studios in December 2023, but it was delayed by the writer's strike. Eventually, Focus Features acquired the distribution rights and released it in June 2024. But the new studio decided to make a sharp marketing shift from focusing on Jodie Comer to centering on Butler and Hardy, trying to appeal to a male audience. But neither marketing strategy worked, and they weren't able to convince enough people to buy theater tickets. The Bikeriders later found a small amount of success on Peacock and Prime Video, which suggests that the film wasn't terrible, it just wasn't what audiences were willing to pay theater prices to see. Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 1, the 30-year passion project that died in one single weekend. Kevin Costner walked away from one of the biggest shows on television to make a movie he'd been planning for over 30 years. He reportedly spent $38 million of his own money, got a 10-minute standing ovation at Cannes Film Festival, then the movie hit theaters, and the project died in three very different heartbreaking ways. Costner conceived the idea for Horizon all the way back in 1988, a sprawling Western epic that would tell the story of early American civilization across multiple movies. But it had to sit on the shelf for decades while he went off to become a movie star. Then, in 2022, Costner decided it was the right time to make it happen. He personally funded $38 million of the $100 million budget for the first two films. He even left Yellowstone, a show that had made him a cultural juggernaut in the latter part of his career, in order to chase this passion project. And as always, the first signals were very good. Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1 premiered at Cannes Film Festival and received a 10-minute standing ovation, which you could see made Costner visibly emotional, and he even shed a tear. The cast included Sienna Miller, Sam Worthington, and Costner was betting everything on the belief that audiences would still turn up to support a beautifully made Western movie. But when it opened, the numbers were truly catastrophic. The movie cost $100 million and opened to just $11 million domestically. By the end of its theatrical run, the total worldwide box office was just $38.8 million. That didn't even cover half of the production budget, let alone the undisclosed marketing budget. And it means that Costner personally lost millions of dollars on the movie. But then, somehow, things got so much worse. Because the real disaster wasn't just the poor box office performance, Chapter 2 of the saga had already been filmed, because it was done back-to-back after Chapter 1. So it was already fully completed, ready for its August 16 release date. But after the poor box office performance of the first movie, Warner Brothers lost confidence in the project and pulled it from the release schedule. The sequel was able to get a Venice Film Festival premiere, but its theatrical release date, unlikely to ever happen. And then fate decided 2 disasters were not enough, because it actually turned out that Costner had planned 4 films in total. But given his lifelong legacy passion project couldn't make it past the first installment, with a completed sequel gathering dust, it seems the 4-film Western epic he dreamed about since 1988 had died at Chapter 1.